It's a little slow.
Hi guys. We just thought that was really cool. It was something we found when we were gathering information and clips for our tour from Puerto Vallarta that's happening on Tuesday. Anyway, hi.
Hi, and we'll put a link to this guy's shop at the end here.
Yeah, and include all the links that we talk about when we go through and answer your questions. We'll put them in the descriptions after we are done here. These will reside on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. We just want to make sure we're showing up somewhere, so we're going to take a quick look.
Because we
really there we are, live.
Okay,
Yay.
Great. That means people are seeing us. Great.
Maybe, if anyone's watching, which I doubt. I'm Kim.
And I'm Wei.
And we are Kim and Wei, in case you couldn't tell by the license plate. So what we did about a few weeks ago is we went out and asked our community for questions. We do that maybe once or twice a year, and we gathered quite a few. Some are
all the questions we get during the year.
Yeah, some are similar to ones we usually get. There are a few ones that are different that we haven't answered. So it's going to cover 3 or 4 main themes: how we make money, how we travel full time, a few questions about the pandemic, and then of course our favorites. Everybody always asks us our favorite this, our favorite that. So we'll sort of start with that. What we are going to do, so we're trying.
So yeah, bear with us a little bit. This is our first test with this program.
Hey, we're back on again. Yeah, we're trying this program out because this is how we're going to use our, look, we have a comment.
Hi, Sam.
This is the software we're going to use for our tours from home. They will be live and free on our Facebook page and our channel. We'll talk more about that later. But we're going to use this, and that's why we're trying it out today. So
Sam, we are doing great.
Thanks
How
for
are
asking.
You? Yeah, thanks for asking. What's the weather like where you are? Because it's perfect here. Just thought I'd rub that in.
So our first category is how we make money. Everybody, this is what we get asked probably most about. So
I'm assuming everyone wants to kind of do this. They want to figure out how we make money. So how do we make money, or do we make money on YouTube, I guess is the first question. And the answer is absolutely. Of course, we make money on YouTube.
Not.
We're probably pulling in 5, 7, some months 9 cents in the month. So
no,
we don't make money on YouTube yet because it's a numbers game, obviously.
Yeah. And also, does YouTube support our travels? Well, since we're making 9 cents a month, it's not, but this is what needs to happen. See, we're nearing about 5,000 subscribers, which actually is pretty good, but we need a few more zeros behind that before this makes us any money. So if you see this button, that means you are not subscribed to our channel. So click it, please. That helps us out. And of course, watch our videos.
Hi, Joanne. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, if you have maybe 10,000 friends that you could have subscribe, that would be really helpful.
Oh, we forgot to cheers with our mimosas. Well, I have a mimosa because we only had a little bit of orange juice left. So he has champagne.
I'm okay with the pure champagne. All right, next question. What exactly are your jobs? And this is supposedly sent by Stephen. However,
but I think it's my mother. So you go first.
Well, I teach languages. As many of you know, I used to teach business courses in different universities around the world. But I spent a lot of my time helping my students get their English a little bit better. And I'm always trying to pick up the language when I'm traveling. And I found out that,
he's amazing at it too.
I'm a natural. Yeah, I am absolutely incredible. It's true. No, the truth is I'm no different. There's no such thing, I think, as a natural. Maybe there is when it comes to language, but I'm really no different than everyone else. What I found out as I got more and more into helping my students is I had developed a system without, consciously developing it, but just a way to learn languages. So I kind of really evaluated what I was doing, codified it, put it into a system, and it's out there if you want to learn how to speak another language.
And for me, some of you know I've been a longtime writer. I've been earning my living as a writer for quite a few years. I recently moved into heading up the video production efforts for the company that I've been writing for the last 3 years. And this is one of the channels that I manage for them. It's Play USA. We are in the online gambling space, legal, regulated, US. So this job was led, or I guess I got this job from my YouTube efforts, from our ability to produce videos. So it's sort of exciting. It's new. I've only been in it a few weeks, but I'm loving it so far. So I get to create all sorts of fun new shows.
Just really quick, Sam, to be honest, it's overcast here too. But that's good. I got so much sun yesterday. I'm a little sunburned.
It's also very warm out. So even though it's overcast, it's warm. Okay, so.
How long did you spend how long do you spend on your website and YouTube each week? So
a lot of time.
A lot, yes.
Too much, probably.
But it's fun.
But we love it.
Yeah, it really is. Obviously, we're not filming right now because we're not traveling as much. We're still actually doing a little bit of filming.
But I don't leave the apartment very often. So,
right.
And obviously when we do, it's for short periods of time and we're avoiding all people. So we're not going to any of the fun stuff.
But that's really how Tours from Home came about.
Yeah.
We have a lot of photos and videos in stock from our previous travels and things we haven't used in videos that we've already made. So we're going to make some tours from home so that you can travel without leaving the house.
Yeah, and it's interesting because our vlogs are obviously very condensed versions of what we do in those cities. So this is sort of like going beyond the vlog a little bit. So we're pretty excited about that.
Sam has a question. What courses or information does one need to produce videos for YouTube for profits? So first of all, profit, 7 to 9 cents a month. So start with that in mind.
So it's interesting because really to make money on YouTube, it's all about getting people to watch your videos. Obviously, the better quality videos you have, presumably the more subscribers you'll get.
Right.
So I just started by learning how to use a software. We use Premiere Pro, which is an Adobe product. So I first started learning how to use that. And then we started learning how to take better quality. Then we upgraded our camera equipment.
Right.
And you can definitely see some of the differences along the way. That's another reason why we're doing Tours from Home. We were going to keep publishing videos in cities that we took the film, but actually didn't get to the video because we do work full time. But we were so bad on camera, we thought, okay, we'll just
we weren't
rework
terrible on camera, but our information was a little.
Yes, we were. We were boring. A little boring. So that's another reason why we did Tours from Home.
Yeah.
So I also joined the Lost Creators Academy, which is run by Christian LeBlanc of the Lost LeBlanc channel. I find his storytelling and his imagery to be stunning, and I wanted to learn how to do that. So I'm always taking classes and courses and trying to just up my game. I pick one topic and try to improve on that. So I hope that answers your question.
It's really a lot of trial and error and just finding out what people want. Okay,
full-time travel. Next category.
How can you afford to travel full-time? Well, we're just fabulously rich.
No. We have 2 adult children. That tells you how not rich we are.
Right. So it really, it comes down to that if you are working and making money so that you are living and surviving now, then you can travel. Because all we are doing is substituting one thing for another. And what I mean by that is where you probably have a mortgage or a rent payment. We don't have that, but we do have an Airbnb or hotel payment. And where you might have a car payment and registration and insurance and maintenance and all that, we have airfare and metro fare. So we make money like everyone has to. We just spend it in a different way. Yeah,
a similar way, but just not in one place.
Right. And so there's a couple of blogs that I wrote about on that. One is how much does it cost to travel the world? And it doesn't give it gives more detail than we'll have some detail about the costs here in a bit on this broadcast. But this blog, How Much Does It Cost to Travel the World, gives you a little bit more information and breaks it down a little bit more about how you can do it. And there's another blog also.
Well, we're going to get to it in a minute.
Okay.
But I will say this too. If it's something that you want to do, it is entirely possible. We will be glad to talk to anybody about it. We have had a couple of one-on-ones with people. We just set up a little Zoom happy hour, and we answer your questions. If that's something that you want to do, you can hit us up, email us, whatever. So,
right.
Okay.
So before we get into this, Nikki has a quick question. What are the few things personal that you just can't or don't want to live without when you're traveling nearly full time?
So it's not actually, there's only a few things for me. One is a good coffee maker, because I will say, even though we stay in really nice places, they don't always have a good coffee maker. So I always bring a pack of good coffee, and we use the AeroPress, which makes phenomenal coffee. And it's just this little
tiny little thing that you would think that is, almost gimmicky, but it makes the best coffee.
Yeah, and I've talked about it before. We'll include a link. So that's one of my things. I think, I'm not sure there's anything else I have to travel with. I can always buy makeup and shampoo and conditioner. I can let my hair go frizzy. In fact, it was really straight when I did it an hour ago, and it's already starting to curl up a little. So I would just let my hair go frizzy. You can buy pretty much anything you need on the road.
That's the thing. One thing I can't live without is going to the gym. And every place we've been has had a gym, nearby at least, that you can get to.
But we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, so I purchased like a home gym that are some, like the tubes that stretch. And that's actually turned out to be great.
Yeah. I do bring my yoga mat everywhere too, because places don't have yoga mats. And because I have a sedentary job, I do try to get up and do things throughout the day. So I guess I could live without that if I had to.
Spices too that we can't always get everywhere.
Yeah, but again, I could live without them. Yeah, so probably. I don't know. That's a really interesting question.
Sam, another question from Sam. Does one have to appear on video, or can one just show places and voiceovers, which is better? You probably need to be on video. So, people identify with the person more than the place. Hi, Sarah.
So yes, I would definitely say you don't have to be on video the whole time. And when we first started,
Kim didn't want to be on video at all.
At all. And now I'm like, get me on camera. No, not really. I think what is hard about being on camera at first is you feel like you have to be something for someone. But just be yourself, because either people will resonate with you or they won't. And if they don't, that's okay, because you're going to find your tribe. So be real. And you could be on video just maybe at the beginning and maybe at the end, and do voiceovers throughout the middle too. But people will connect better with a person than they will with a place.
Right. There's a lot of videos on every subject out there. So it really comes down to people like you to tell them about whatever it is you're telling them about.
In business, I liken this to people do business with people. They don't do business with companies. So that's why the person on the front of the phone always gets either the thanks or the heartache, right? Because people are doing business with whoever they are communicating with. So just keep that in mind.
So the coffee maker, the question is it similar to a French press? And it is, but the difference is that it's like airtight, so that when you plunge it, like you do with the French press, it's I don't know what it does, but it does something. It does something wonderful.
In fact, we have a pretty decent coffee maker here, so we haven't been using it. But in our Tucson Airbnb, we didn't like the coffee maker wasn't brewing properly, so we used it the whole time and for 2 months.
And that is, in the pandemic, we usually go before the pandemic, we would go out for coffee. We'd
A
find a
lot.
favorite place, and every morning we'd start there.
But I drink a lot of
We
coffee.
can't really do that now because other people are out in the morning drinking coffee, and they do that. Crazy talk.
Okay, so back to our typical monthly budget. Here are some actual numbers. Now, these are monthly numbers that we took from last year that were averaged out over the 12 months.
And I kept a record down to the cents for.
Oh my God, he was relentless. How much did this cost? Do you remember how much we spent?
I got to say, it was terrible. I don't want to do it again.
But these are actual numbers rounded up per month. And this view, just so you know, is the view from our Airbnb in Durrës, Albania, which was part of our accommodation budget. So that's what that kind of money can buy you in the right place.
And here's a total insider tip for those that are listening: Albania.
We love it there.
God.
If they had better healthcare system, we would probably look at that as a place to live. Yeah.
Their language is impossible too. It's a language like Basque and Finnish, where it's not related to anything else. Nobody knows where it comes from. So it's really difficult to learn.
But once you understand what to look for, your pointing finger works really well.
Yeah, a lot of people speak English, and the bottom line is everybody's happy to help you.
So the transportation costs, our big portion of our costs come from our big flights, which is usually twice a year, because we tend to relocate to a region. So it's that big cost from the US to Europe, to Asia, whatever that looks like. And we stay in the region to minimize our cost or to offset that big purchase, because it's much cheaper to travel within certain regions.
So, for example, we'll fly from the U.S. to Italy, and then we took the train to France, and then we hopped around to other countries.
So our accommodation averages $1,200 per month. Now, this is a combination of hotels and Airbnbs. When we are in a place for a short period of time, we tend to stay in a hotel, and we tend to be very picky, so we tend to stay at very nice hotels.
Yeah,
not extraordinarily luxury hotels, but nice hotels.
So the view that you're seeing here on the screen from our apartment deck, that was $700 a month, and the door went right to the beach.
Well, it went down 4 flights of stairs and then to the beach.
And there was a coffee shop right there and restaurants. I mean, it was essentially you walked onto the boardwalk that was full of restaurants and coffee shops and shops. So it was beautiful.
We stayed there 6 weeks because we kept extending our stay. It was lovely. And it was slightly off season. So it's cheaper when everything is cheaper when it's off season. So keep that in mind. Our food budget is eating out a lot.
A lot.
But like here in Mexico, where it would typically be less expensive to eat street food, and we love Mexican street food, because of the pandemic, we're eating in our apartment a lot more. So it can be a combination of groceries as well.
Right. And that food cost also includes 2 to 4 coffees every morning out, and then nightly cocktails. Maybe not nightly, but maybe just 7 days a week for cocktails.
He drinks more than I do.
Yeah.
So our utilities are really simple. That's our cell phones. We use Google Fi. It's an international service plan, and it's $35 a month. You pay extra over so much gigs of data, but because we use our phone mostly on Wi-Fi, it doesn't matter.
And I want to say hi to the 12th unique, and apologizing that I'm not getting any notification that chats are coming through. So it's just when I happen to look over. But anyway, hello.
We have 2 screens because one has to control this and then one has to control the chat. But we see you and we're glad you're here.
On utilities, that's really under accommodations. So, think about what you're paying for rent or mortgage, and add in, your electricity, your water, your gas, your internet, because we don't pay for any of that.
Right.
It's included in an Airbnb or hotel, obviously.
That also includes a backup hotspot, because I make my living on the internet and I actually have a job I have to produce at specific times. I have deadlines and all of that. We need to make sure we have Wi-Fi and something backup. Like the other day, it went out, so I used our backup hotspot. Entertainment is our tours and
mostly entrance fees.
And entrance fees, yeah.
To places, yeah. And we don't do a lot of like organized paid tours. We do some because it's very convenient to get there and get information about it. But really, it's getting into places.
Yeah. Or if we do a tour, a lot of times we try to do private because we want to be able to ask the questions we want to ask and go on our own time frame because we're filming, which usually takes longer. We don't want to hold up a group and stuff like that. We try to be respectful travel bloggers because it's a little annoying to having a camera everywhere all the time. So we do try to be respectful of people, and there you go.
Insurance. We use Safety Wing when we're out of the US. It's about $650. That's for both of us, by the way. And the deductible is only about $500.
It includes COVID and everything, like everything except very long term.
Right. So it wouldn't cover all that cancer treatment or long-term dialysis.
But if I broke a bone, it would cover that process.
Yeah. If you get bad food poisoning or you're in an accident, anything like that. And then COVID-19 as well, it covers now.
And this is for full coverage, whereas they have a less expensive plan. If you're traveling out of the US, we would also recommend it. We've been doing that since we've traveled, and that's way less expensive, maybe $200 for both of us at our age. We're older, so it's more expensive. It includes COVID-19. It includes things in local hospitals. And it will work with your insurance, but it's just something I find nice to have. Now, we say this with a caveat that we've never had to use the insurance.
Thankfully.
And I would be knocking on a lot of wood right now if I could. So.
But at the end of the day, the reason that we can recommend it without having used it is because of the service we've received. Every time, I've called 2 or 3 times, and every time I call, like a person answers. It's not a telephone tree. It's just like, hello. Well, I mean, they say the name of the company, but it's a person answers and you can actually talk to somebody immediately. And I've also sent emails and done the online chat, and they get right back to you with the information you need. And they're totally transparent about stuff. I love that.
Yeah. And it's really, and they're very upfront and very honest. And when we were in Malaysia, as the pandemic was breaking out, we got so much communication around their COVID-19 coverage, because at that time, if a country was elevated to a certain level, you had 10 days to leave or they wouldn't cover it. But if you got COVID during those 10 days, you were covered, but afterwards not. So they're just very upfront about what they will and will not cover. And that I really appreciate a lot, especially as we're traveling, although we're not traveling.
It's a Norwegian-based company, and Norway is well known for having a culture that values people and its population over profits.
Yeah.
So I hope we never have to use it, but I have full confidence if we do. Okay.
This miscellaneous category, first of all, we estimated here because we didn't actually track our miscellaneous costs, but we know it's a line item in most budgets, so we felt it was fair and we rounded it. And this is for things like last week we broke the blender. I've been doing a lot of smoothies. I'm not sure what happened with the blender, but it fell off the counter and broke.
The craft part broke. So we replaced that for the Airbnb. We went to the store
and replaced it. So it's things like that, things that we don't normally buy, but that we would buy for whatever reason.
Right, and some clothing and whatever.
But we don't really buy a lot of stuff.
A lot of sunscreen here. So.
Yeah, there you go.
At least I am.
There.
Yeah, so Sam's got a question. When traveling to other countries, how long is one allowed to stay on average, let's say business versus pleasure? So typically it's 30 to 90 days for most countries with the US passport.
Asia tends to be 30, Europe tends to be 90.
Right, and that's obviously pre-COVID-19 because you can't actually travel anywhere with the US passport now, or 16 or 20 countries. But assuming that things get back to normal, most visas are in that 30, 60, and 90-day period. Mm-hmm. And then they're typically renewable, even in the Asian countries. You can go in for 30 days and then you go into immigration and get a stamp for another 30 days. And you can do that usually 2 or 3 times.
I would like to say, though, that we enter on a tourist visa because we are not here for business in the state. because I work nomadically, I work for a US company and I'm doing US work, I am just choosing to do it right now with a better view.
Right. So we're always traveling on a tourist visa.
Except we are in Mexico working on getting our temporary residence visa here.
Right. And that'll give us the ability to stay as long as we want.
Exactly. Okay.
How do I start traveling full time? It seems so overwhelming. Well, it's very easy. You sell everything you own and your house and all your cars, and you just start traveling.
So looking back on it, I will say it's very easy. But at the time, it was very overwhelming.
Right.
And I think the biggest part of it is just making the decision to do it. And once you make the decision to do it and start to put the plan in place, I think it moves along. And then when you realize I was the one that made it more overwhelming. It wasn't the fact that it was overwhelming.
It's like any big change. It seems impossible or it seems overwhelming, but just when you start making these incremental steps, it just gets done. But that's really the key, is to plan. And we really started planning years ahead. And I think the big issue is the job. Yeah. Having a job that you can travel with, unless you're retired and have retirement income or something, and then you're golden. And the big step is also leaving behind the stuff in the US. So like selling your house or selling your cars and most of what you own. That's hard to do, but you realize that after you do it, it's like a really huge weight off your shoulder. It's like, why didn't we do this years ago?
So while we've been planning for this, we've been living on the road. We let go of our apartment in Flagstaff in January of 2018. So we're coming up almost like 2.5, 3 years of doing this full time. So the process to plan that was about 2 years prior, but we have wanted to do this. We were told by one of our friends 20 years ago, apparently we had talked to him about this was our long-term goal, was to travel full time. And he mentioned to us recently that says, it is really good to see you fulfilling a goal or a dream that you guys had 20 years ago.
Yeah. Which
I totally forgot that it's been that long.
The other thing is there's never going to be a perfect time to do it. So it just needs to be done.
Yeah.
So there might be reasons, real reasons you can't do it immediately. So we didn't do this until 2 years ago because our kids were still at home.
Yeah, our goal was to get them graduated and situated in their new lives. But
when our youngest went to college, that's when we started.
Well, so I waited a semester. I wanted to make sure he loved it and didn't want to come home or any of that.
Right.
He wants nothing to do with us. We were in Tucson with him, well, not with him, but near him for 2 months. And we were blessed with his presence 2 to 3 times a week for dinner for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, and it's just enough time to eat.
Pretty much. Which makes me happy as a mother that he's
he's having a good time on his own.
And he doesn't need me, but it makes me sad as a mother for the same reasons.
I was just going to say, don't wait for the perfect time, because there's never a perfect time for anything. Wait for a good time or an okay time and make the move. Nikki has a question. Would you talk about the residency visa process experience?
Okay, yes.
So first of all, to Mexico.
There's a reason why we're laughing right now.
The residency process for Mexico is really easy. You go to the consulate closest to you and you fill out.
Outside of Mexico. You have to start the process when you're wherever you are.
So most countries require that you start the process out of their country. So we were in Tucson, we made an appointment, we went to the appointment, and 20 minutes later, we had the first part down.
20 minutes and 2 visits because we didn't have quite all the documents.
Yes, so we found this issue in a lot of countries that it's very difficult to get a list of everything you need. I'm not even sure the consulate knows everything you need, and who you talk to, especially in Asian countries, determines on what exactly you need. So plan on making a couple of trips. You'll have everything you need. bring everything else you think you could possibly need with you, and maybe you can pull it out and get it done in one trip. But typically you'll have everything you need and they'll say, oh yeah, just this one other thing, and you'll come back. But the Mexican consulates and seem to be fully staffed and really happy to help you. So it's very easy.
And it was during the pandemic. They would only allow a few people in the lobby at a time. We had appointments. We got to be well known, so they let us in a few times. I think it was really pretty nice. It was a great experience. I've never dealt with a government like that was
so efficient and friendly. Yeah. It wasn't just like the civil service job you get in the US. It was like these people were happy.
So that was step one. Step two is to go through immigration in Mexico and show them your tourist visa or your temporary residence visa. So they list you as a temporary resident, which we forgot to do.
Well, it's a little confusing because so you get this temporary residency visa from the consulate in your home country, and then you travel to Mexico, but with this visa. But we traveled here as tourists because we're in the process of becoming residents.
We didn't know we were supposed to show the visa because they told us to show it at the immigration office.
Right, you're supposed to come in as a resident even though you weren't.
So we went to the immigration office when we got here and they're like, but you're a tourist, but no. And so
the bottom line is we have to leave Mexico and come back on the tourist visa or the
temporary residency visa. And now we're trying to
go through the next step.
We're trying to decide what that looks like because we don't really want to travel for the sake of just traveling because it's a pandemic. So we haven't really figured out what our next steps are. But eventually we will go there with our temporary residency status, give them all of our information. We have to fill out a form online, which we also were not told to do.
Right.
And then it'll take about 2 to 3 weeks, and we will get 1 year temporary residency, which we can renew up to 3 times, and then we can apply for permanent residency.
Right. And then
so that's the process.
Citizenship. We want to go that far. And
learn from our mistakes. Yeah, don't be like us.
The consulate here in Mexico had no wait. It was fully staffed.
The immigration office.
The immigration office here in Mexico. Yeah, it was amazing. We just walked in and they saw us.
One person. So he went in with both of our passports because they will only let one person in at a time. So it was nice.
We are also applying for residency in Italy.
Citizenship, though, difference. We hope.
We started with residency, and Italy has a more typical system for getting residency. And it's kind of known in the international expat world that in Italy to get citizenship, you have to be in the country to fill out the paperwork. But you are not allowed to fill out the paperwork until you have the visa, which you can only get out of the country.
We're hiring help.
You have to hire someone to be in the country to do the first step because you can't do the first step. You can't get into the country until you do the first step, but you can't do the first step until you have
And I have family ties that might make a citizenship path a little easier for us. So we're exploring that option.
Sam has a quick question. Would you recommend people who have small children to give it a try? So I would say with small children, yes. And we've come across a lot of travelers and expats with small children. With older children, like in the teens, I would say probably not because they've got their friends and stuff.
The social aspects of the middle school to high school, I think is really important for kids. But that doesn't mean it's not appropriate either because I know a lot of older full-time, this is not coming out right, but travel couples with older kids that are traveling. And if you think about the military and their kids traveling, it teaches you different skills. Right. So for us, our kids were sort of already ensconced in our community. We wanted to make sure they maintained what they knew in their life. But, our one son is a wanderer like us. One son likes a little bit more stability. And so he's in university. I think it helps develop your kids and it helps them find their own path regardless of which way you choose. I think you have to make that decision based upon the family unit for sure. Okay.
What do you hate about traveling full time?
Okay,
Well, very
so-
little, but there are a few things. The thing
This-
I probably hate most is getting up early
That's
morning flights.
way in bed, and I probably have 50 of these pictures. So the night before a really early morning flight, I don't sleep very well because it's that anticipating the alarm clock thing. So when the alarm clock goes up, I'm like up and at him and go, go, go. And it's like pulling teeth to get him out of bed.
Hi, Risa.
Oh, Risa! So yeah, it's early morning flights, not our jam at all, especially so flying from Tucson here, which was scary enough because it was during the pandemic, there was no coffee. And that is like a double whammy, something that I can't
You're in the
handle.
airport at 3 a.m. and no coffee. So we only have to do the early morning when we're making big
changes usually.
Big changes. So the other thing that I absolutely hate and will never do unless forced to is travel by bus.
And when he says never, he means until the next time.
Yeah, sometimes it's unavoidable. So this picture here was from Duress to Barat. It's the only way to get there, I mean, other than walking or...
If you look at if we have a video of this travel day, and I think I mentioned on it that I'm not even sure we're going to make it to the stop. It was an hour drive. It was, yeah, but we did make it, but there was some questionable moments for sure.
I even hate like coach travel and air-conditioned buses with, a full service with food. Yeah, for whatever reason, I hate bus travel.
He's a snob. The other thing we really dislike, and it's only hit me really hard recently, it's always hit him, is jet lag. The jet lag bit is a problem, but I will say that I've been using the Time Shifter app, and it's amazing. If you are going and you're having a big time shift change, the Time Shifter app I would totally recommend.
And I've been using the fasting method, and that worked really well.
It was recommended by one of my former bosses, Donnie Peters at Poker News, but he's not at Poker News anymore. He works for Pocket Fives now. He recommended that he used it because he used to cover our poker tournaments all around the world. And that's the one thing he did. You fast for 16 hours before breakfast in your landing location. And when you get to the end of that 16 hours, you eat.
You eat breakfast at a breakfast time at your destination.
Where you're landing, and you immediately will.
And I guess the theory behind it is that your internal system as far as sleep is regulated primarily by lights and by digestion. So if you can start to get those aligned with the new time, then it helps a lot. So getting up early, bus travel, jet lag, and squat toilets. Four things we hate.
I will hold it rather than go in a squat toilet, which is really hard in Asia, just so you know.
Hi, Janet.
Okay.
Janet has a question. I've traveled in Europe and other countries outside of the US, but always with others. Any thoughts, experiences of meeting female travelers on your own? Any thoughts, challenges they may have conveyed for you notice or you notice could be particularly challenging versus the obvious?
So this is an interesting, I'm going to go back to this picture. This is an interesting question because when Wei was in China for 3 semesters, basically 3 months each, I traveled on my own. And the things that I didn't really do much different. I mean, I guess I wasn't out alone in a partying area at night, but I pretty much looked for recommendations with our Airbnbs that were in a safe spot. I also looked at, you can actually type in solo travel too and get a lot of information on what it's like to travel by yourself to a certain country. I never really feared for my safety or anything, but I take normal precautions. But I also am not a fearful person when I travel. I really believe in the inherent good of people. That doesn't mean I'm dumb or I'm naive about it, but I don't carry a lot of money when I'm out. You know, I'm smart, but I also don't operate from a place of fear. And I think that lends yourself to absorbing more into the culture and into the community, and you're not as noticeable. If you're fearful, you will be noticed. So that's my recommendation.
In my travels alone, what I come up against is it's hard to motivate myself to go out and do something. It's much easier if you've got someone who says, hey, let's go do this, or you mentioned, hey, let's go do this, and the 2 or 3 or 10 of you go out. But when you're solo,
That's
it can
interesting.
be hard to it's like eating out or going to a movie alone. It's much easier if someone says, hey, let's go to a movie. And you go out together.
So I'm not bothered by that at all.
Okay.
I went and hiked down into a cenote and swam. I had a guide with me, but I did it on my own. And I like doing things on my own because I feel like I'm not embarrassing myself in front of others. Anyway.
Too funny. I will also be putting together a video about how to be safer when you're traveling, safety when you're traveling. And if safety is an issue, if something you're thinking about, just realize that with the exception of 4 or 5 other countries, every country in the world is safer than the United States.
And there's a lot of reasons for that, and we won't go into them. But yeah. Anyway.
All right, you always seem to have good Airbnbs. How do you do it?
So I'm going to play this little video. I hope it works while we're talking. But this is a view from our Airbnb, one of the 2 or 3 terraces in our Airbnb in Berat, Albania. And what I look for are a few things. I look for a superhost with a lot of reviews and some of our criteria. Our criteria are we like to have a bedroom that is separate from our living space. And that's because I do work full time and I work in our Airbnb usually. And Wayne and I are on slightly different schedules. He stays up later, I wake up earlier. So we like to have a separate bedroom. This Airbnb actually has 2 bathrooms. So while I don't use that as a requirement, I really, really like it. So I look at reviews and I read them. I sent out our travel log this week and it was talking about how I was tired, and I was tired because we had a party outside of our window last night and every night that it hasn't rained for the last few weeks. And I read that there was noise in the reviews, but I was thinking, oh, how bad can it be? It's a pandemic.
Bad.
It is really bad. So that was a not so rookie mistake on my part. I didn't believe the reviews that I read, but read the reviews, believe what they say, people that are leaving true reviews. And that's why a lot of reviews are important, because they're usually real. And just read what they have to say. You'll get a lot of information about what's in the area as well as the real situation in the Airbnb. That's how I do it. It's not magic.
Yeah, and we don't always hit it either.
No.
We had a couple, 2 or 3 that weren't great.
But it's usually because I go against my own policies. It's not that they weren't great because I followed my list of criteria and I read the reviews. It was our budget was a little lower for that week because, a kid needed something or whatever.
All our money.
And so I'm booking something that I didn't really want to book to begin with.
And we have certain things that we look for because we've done this so often. So we there's essentially this, I don't know, it's not physical, but a mental checklist. And one of the keys is brightness. So look carefully at the pictures and make sure that it's bright. Brightness gets rid of a lot of ugliness. There have been many Airbnbs I walked into at night and like, oh my God, can we stay here?
But in the day,
in the morning, it's like, this place is fabulous.
Not fabulous might be a stretch, but anyway.
But anyway, reviews are the key, and then know what you.
And I spend also a lot of time looking, like hours. So it's not. I always.
Yeah, plan on spending a lot of time.
If you want to get the right place,
worth it because
it's worth it.
You're going to be living there.
Yeah.
And we have a bit of a system where Kim will sift through 100 and then all of
do all the dirty work.
4 or 5. And from that, we'll
usually
choose.
I show him the first one best. He goes, that's good. And then I book it. But even then I always have a little knot in my stomach when I book, because the Airbnb refund are usually pretty strict. Now they're a little bit more lenient. So check those too before you book.
Sam has a question. Are the countries Would you have been where they are hostile to Americans?
No.
No, even Serbia, America just bombed them in the 90s, was happy to see us as Americans. And I think the bottom line is that if you're out traveling and wanting to experience their culture and their country, of course they're happy to see you.
That's key. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that we were a little nervous to start traveling full time. Again, started in January of 18, so you can figure out what was going on in the country. We brought our Canadian lapel pins in case we needed to hide behind them. We haven't had to.
Right.
People are most receptive to people. So we come as tourists and we're happy to learn about their culture, and they are excited to teach us. Doesn't matter where you're from.
Exactly. Yeah. So it kind of goes back to, do you need to be on camera? Yes, because people relate to people. Doesn't matter where you're from or what your video's about.
Yeah.
Do they like you? That's the bottom line.
Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about the pandemic, unless there's more questions.
There's one more from Jana. All good points. Thanks, Wade. Can relate to that as well. Okay. Yeah. So,
comment.
Yeah, we're
Thanks,
kind of loners. How are you dealing with being grounded? Not very well. I am going crazy because I love to get out and do things and meet people. And
I am a hermit by nature,
hard.
so while it's fine for me, if I'm ready to move on, that there's a problem. But I am also sort of made for a pandemic, to be honest.
Yeah, it's if anything, it's really shown that I need to travel.
Well, it has reinforced the fact that this is the life for us. We both want to get back to it. We are being safe. We did relocate to Puerto Vallarta during the pandemic, but we only did that because we felt like it was the safe thing to do.
Right. We obviously were in Arizona, which was the hot spot for the world at the time.
And Tucson's hospital capacity was in the high 80s, low 90s. And it's not that I was fearful of getting of COVID-19, because we were being very, very safe. And actually, I never left the house. We had our groceries delivered, everything. But it was the fact that we're over 50. And what if something else happens? We didn't want to be in a hospital system that wouldn't allow my husband to visit, or me to visit him, or maybe even get treatment that we needed because they were overrun with COVID-19 patients. And so we had to make the decision to travel, and we did. And I'm glad we did, but I feel safer here, but I still am not leaving because people aren't wearing the masks as much as I would like them to.
And it is much safer here. But yeah, it's really been difficult for us because it's our whole lifestyle that we planned for years to set up. And we've been doing it for a couple of years, and now the rug's just been pulled out from underneath us.
Well, and it's really hard to stay at home when you don't have a home. Like, we don't have a permanent home to stay at home at. Now, our parents have been very welcoming, and we could certainly stay there, but it's living with your parents.
I'm 50 and live with my mom. Has the pandemic altered your plans to travel full time? And related to that, would you relocate during the pandemic again? So it has not changed our plans. We will be traveling full time as soon as things open up.
And it's safe.
Yeah, and it's safe, obviously. And there's some safe places to go now that we're looking at possibly. But the problem is getting there is not necessarily always safe.
And he doesn't want, so the good news is he doesn't like bus travel. So that is one way of transportation we will not consider right now during the pandemic. So he's very lucky there. So we did write a blog about 7 tips that we took with us from our travel from the US to Mexico, and how you can make traveling a little safer. I will also say, see, the mimosas is starting to get me. I will also say that after we got here, I realized that, or I read an article about how air travel is actually relatively low risk. So I'd like to research that a little bit more. They had very credible sources, but I will be keeping an eye on that topic, because we have to finish our residency process in the next few months, which means we're going to have to leave Mexico within the next few months and come back in order to finish the process. So I don't know what that looks like yet.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And as far as, after having to relocate to the US, has that changed plans for both of us?
Yeah.
But really, speaking for myself, it has cemented the fact that I love to travel. Being stuck in one place and in the US, and I dislike, I shouldn't say I dislike, but I dislike being in the US because it's where I grew up, it's what I know really well, it's my culture, and I find it boring because of all of that.
I think we're lifelong students, and I think that travel lends itself to that type of personality.
Right. We both thrive on change, and there's not a lot of change in the US.
Which most people don't, so we get why our lifestyle is not for most people.
Right.
But for us, change is exciting.
So really, it's like getting your favorite food every now and then, it's great. And when you start eating it all the time, you're not sure. And then it gets taken away from you, you want it again. I want to travel again. All right, our favorite.
So this is always a tough one for us because it's like comparing children. You never have a favorite. So our favorite experience. So first way, we each got 2. He started with 13.
13, and you're right. And we compromised. And as every married man knows, half of 13 is 2. So one of my 13 favorite experiences was being at on the Bosphorus at the entrance to the Black Sea. And the Bosphorus is, this place that throughout history has been a hub of the world. And that's exactly what I need. Thank you. And the Black Sea to me is this really mysterious giant body of water that is bordered by these mysterious countries that we don't know much about. I grew up obviously during the Cold War when these areas were off limits to most travelers. So it's just, and I have a degree in geography, so there are very few places in the world where there's this very narrow area that enters into a large body of water like this. And of course, the Bosphorus is this narrow place. You can see how narrow it is here that connects 2 giant seas. So there's all of this going on that I've always wanted to see this.
This is the dorkiness I live with every day. But I will say it was a beautiful day. We took the ferry up from Istanbul. There's a castle we toured. We have a video. I think we did the video, didn't we?
There's a video, yeah. Don't worry.
It was lovely.
Yeah.
So it was lovely.
One of my few bucket lists. I've done most of what I want to do in life, but this was one of them.
And here's another one.
Yeah, so I'm
going to play this.
Okay.
But you can talk while it's playing.
Okay, this is Teotihuacan, which is the capital of the Aztec Empire. And I studied this in my undergrad years and became fascinated with it and have studied it on and off since. So to actually be walking through the capital of the Aztecs and, seeing the pyramids or what's left of them and being able to touch the stones that they carved, to me, that was incredible.
I have seen more ruins than any person should,
and you
just
will see
so you know.
Many more.
Okay, now it's on to my turn.
Yep.
So my first one is climbing the volcano outside of Antigua. Do you need glasses to read what's going on there? I have glasses standing by. So for those of you that know, I've lost both my brother and one of my sisters. And my brother, it's been a little over 7 years. And on his birthday, was it last year, we hiked up to this volcano because one of my goals is to replace these sort of sad days with amazing experiences. So this was one of them.
And this is out of Antigua, Guatemala.
And we hiked up the volcano and we were so close to the molten lava that we got to roast marshmallows. It was such a wonderful, spectacular day. And it really has changed the memory of that day for me. And I got this, I don't know where you can see it.
Yep, you're there.
It's a little piece of lava from the mountain into a ring. And it's just super special. So obviously that will sit with me forever. I'm going to start to cry. But
and that's a mountain. That's a column of lava behind Kim that's actually moving, and some of these rocks and stuff are falling down. So you would never turn your back on that.
Which I just did.
Right. It is probably the most dangerous thing that you could take a bunch of tourists to, and the place was full of tourists. But I mean, this is a moving column of lava.
But we had our own private tour guide.
Right. It was just the two of us
with our guide, and
there were others up there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And then of course the other one is association with my sister, and we went to.
Oh, you get two.
You had two. You did the.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So we went to the butterfly migration, which happens through March in Mexico. Outside of Mexico City, there's these butterfly reserves, and we did this on my mother's birthday in honor of my sister, because there are many reasons why butterflies signal, the life after, but there were actually really big symbols that came to my mom right after my sister's death that tie into the monarch butterfly. So this has been on my bucket list for over 30 years or so.
What you're seeing here, these big
clumps of
dark
brown clumps.
Those are thousands of butterflies on branches, and they're, a butterfly just weighs a gram or less, but there's so many of them congregate in one branch. The branches will break off the trees.
We have really videos on all of these things up, but
I've never seen anything like it.
I actually think I come to tears on this video.
You do.
Because it was such a moving day for me. So those are my two favorite experiences. We have many, many more. And I will say this, that every experience is memorable for a reason. And it's just everything we do is something we cherish.
Thanks, Sarah.
Aww.
And Nikki, let me get us through our favorites, and we'll talk about the language course. Thank you.
Our favorite country. Okay, so how many did you have?
So we've been to 17, so I picked 13.
So I will say that before we started our journey in January, we have been to a combination of like 72 countries. I was in the 40s, you were in the 30s. But we're only really counting, for the purpose of our documentation here, the stuff that we did since we started our journey. So we've been to 17 countries so far. He came with a huge list. I made him narrow it down to one, which he narrowed it down to two, but one of his was one of mine, so he got the other one, which is?
Mexico. I love it here. I absolutely love it here. And the reason I had so many on my list is because it's like comparing food. I love shrimp.
I love food.
And I love chocolate cake. But how do you compare those two? So, there's some things in certain countries
Every time I ask him for a favorite, by the way, he gives me this. I'm like,
because it's so difficult. So some countries, I really love certain things about them, and other countries don't have that aspect, but they have something else that's just incredible that I love.
Go on to why you love Mexico.
I love Mexico. Mexico has a lifestyle that's perfect for me. For us, yeah. It's just
minus the late night parties.
It's relaxed and easygoing. It's a slower pace of life where people are focused on enjoying life and living, as
family
opposed
focus.
To working and being productive and getting things done.
Because I don't know how they can be productive if they're partying until 6 a.m. in the
true.
Morning.
But it's, they obviously things get done in Mexico. It's
it's just a lifestyle. It's an amazing lifestyle.
Country that's moving forward, but it's got a fabulous balance between, we got work to do and we have life to enjoy. And that's what I love about it. And of course, I'm addicted to tacos, and there's great beer. And the other great thing, maybe the most important thing, is everyone, and I do mean everybody in Mexico, is really nice and friendly and helpful and just kind and happy.
They love life. Everybody. And I think
there's not a single person in Mexico who doesn't. Not one.
I will say, I joke a lot about we're on the fun side of the wall, but it's not a joke, to be honest. And I will say that I am half Italian, half Irish, but I would not be surprised at all to find a big sliver of Mexican inside my DNA, because obviously I love it here too. We've been talking about what our future plans are, and like if we had to settle, I don't think we'll ever fully settle, but we might put down roots places and still travel a lot. It's often between Mexico and my favorite country, of course, Italy.
Yeah.
Now, I'm choosing this picture because it's my grandfather's boyhood home, which I want to buy. It is still in our family. It has no road access, so it's they're trying to sell it. So we're just putting together the capital to buy it from whatever the family group is.
Right.
They will give us a sweet deal to keep it in the family. So because
we just have to put a heliport in to get to it. But
no,
you can hike walk to it.
You
right.
can hike to it. But here's what people don't know, and don't tell anyone, because I don't want anyone to go and snatch this up. I'm not going to tell you where it is for that reason. Is the person who owns the rights to the easement, they're older. They're not going to last forever. And we're thinking the easement, we might be able to buy our way in.
Is repeatedly said, nope, you can't have an easement. So hopefully the next person that gets it
I'm hoping we can buy our way in soon. So,
but Italy is really similar to Mexico in that they get things done, but at the same time that it's very different for sure, but they enjoy life. There's, coffee shops don't open till 10 o'clock. That was a little annoying to us.
That was our biggest,
but think about it.
With
morning coffee doesn't start until 10.
There is no to-go coffee, which I personally love.
Yeah, well, there's no to-go in any country except the US.
True. They made up the word to-go in Italy, in Italian, is to-go because it only came when Americans came to Italy.
It's an interesting cultural point. There's only one country that we've been in that had to-go cups.
What?
Greece.
Oh yeah, Greece. I was going to say, but Greece.
Yeah, well, that would be the one. Because if you're going to have coffee, you're clearly going to sit down and enjoy it and probably chat with somebody, and
whether it's the person you're with or the people next to you, even when you're with people, you still chat to the people next to you.
Right. Sam's got a question. What is your favorite spot to stay, in the sea or inland? So that is a constant point of conflict within us, Sam. Thanks for bringing that up.
So, if like the spur of the moment answer is, I love to be near the water.
Right, the beach. So that's why we're here, looking at the water now.
And the reason why you're not looking at the water is because the light's wrong.
Right, you get the kitchen. But we've also discovered that, much to both of our surprises, we are city people. We love big cities. I mean, like Bangkok and Shanghai and Mexico City, where you can go out and get all kinds of great food at any hour, and there's rooftop
cultural
bars and cultural activities and great coffee shops.
Just activity and liveliness and fun, and it's just exhilarating.
So we have this discussion amongst us, and this angst internally that we're headed towards. We're headed towards probably getting a place in a large city, something like Mexico City, that has good flight, quick access to beach towns for the weekend or long weekends.
Or we're looking at, so one of the reasons why we're picking Puerto Vallarta, or why we're in Puerto Vallarta right now, is I've been here a few times, and it has a very quaint downtown, and it's on a hill. So behind Puerto Vallarta, you go up this hill, and one of the Airbnbs I stayed with while Wei was in China, I was here, was up this very, very steep hill. But when you go up the hill, you're in the natural communities. So you're sort of outside of the tourist zone.
Right.
So we're looking for something. I don't mind going down to the beach and being around tourists. Even the tourists here are not obnoxious, except when they don't wear a mask.
We like being in a tourist town. It's like a little bit like where we're from, Flagstaff. It's a tourist town, so it's kind of nice to be on the inside.
But you're in the inside. You know where to go. You know the insiders thing. So we're looking.
But there's that excitement and the amenities of of being in a tourist town.
So if we can find the right beach city or town, then we are all in.
Right. So like Barcelona or Lisbon.
Barcelona's
Something like
expensive
this.
though, so
But these are big cities that are on the beach.
Right.
So yeah. So again, yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
so we literally put up Google Maps and we just follow coastlines of countries to see where we're gonna settle down.
Within reason. Helsinki's on the
Favorite
coast, but we're
city?
not
How
going
many
there.
did you have?
I don't know.
A lot?
30.
I made him narrow it down to one.
Mexico City.
Not that you would know by this totally self-absorbed photo.
Well, but this is what Mexico City is for me. So this is a work day, having coffee on the walking street, and it's like, well, I might as well get my shoes shined while I'm doing that. And I don't recall, but I'm sure I struck up a conversation with these
When
two
he
guys
sent
next
me
to
with
us.
this picture, I'm like, could you not give me a picture of Mexico City?
Oh, this is Mexico City for me. It is enjoying the good life, which is not expensive.
Your arms look pretty good in this video too.
Thanks. But it's not, the good life isn't expensive. It's a $2 cup of coffee and a $3 shoe shine.
I don't even think it was $3.
I don't think it was that much either. But, and then watching the people go by on a walking street
So can I
and
say
chatting
something?
with everybody next
It's
to
not
you.
a shoe shine because he has actually fabric
Right.
shoes on, so they washed the shoes.
Yeah, it
on
was a
his
little
foot.
bit more of charity because the guy needed, I helped the guy.
Charity. You're
I didn't
supporting
need them.
entrepreneurship.
Okay, there we go, entrepreneurship. In Mexico City, for all the reasons that I love Mexico, it's this giant, vibrant, modern city that is just moving forward, and it's an international city too, which I love. There's a
Okay.
huge Chinatown in Mexico. I have a video on that.
So I chose Istanbul, but I have some caveats because if any of my family is watching, they're probably going to be mad at me. So I didn't choose Stresa, which is
Oh,
where my
right.
family's from. And I didn't choose some cities in Italy because I haven't been to them all after we've started this travel journey.
Right.
I loved Florence. I love Stresa with all my heart. I would buy a place in Stresa, honestly. But I chose Istanbul because of several reasons. The history here is phenomenal. And the beauty is just, it's breathtaking. And the spices and the smells and the food and the people and everything was just, I couldn't get enough. I am not done with Istanbul. I can't wait to go back. I could see myself spending way more time here. There were things like going on top of the old Constantinople wall of the city. We went to do a video, which we have a video of, where we tried to follow the wall and we stopped at the different gates. And we're walking along the wall and we see workers trying to preserve it because it's crumbling and they're trying to do their best to
You're not
protect
allowed on it because it is literally falling apart.
It's closed to tourists. And they're like, come on up. So we literally got to walk up and walk along the old Constantinople. So it's things like that.
And they spoke no English, and my
None.
Turkish is, well,
It was zero.
at the best was terrible. It's zero now. But again, that's, and Turkey was a lot like Mexico and Italy, that everybody is just friendly and you could strike up a conversation with anybody, even if you didn't speak the language.
Well, it's like everywhere we go, though, because we're open and we try and we ask and we make ourselves available for conversation.
Right.
We have been privy to some amazing experiences. That's why this list is really hard for us, because like experiences, going to a closed fort because it's closed during renovations and getting a private tour from someone who holds the key because he plays
Bulls.
some French game there.
Bulls.
Yeah, that, whatever, I can't say it. It's things like that that make us really anxious to get back on the road.
Yeah, this is really making me miss
Okay.
it. All right, favorite foods.
This is not helping.
No, this is certainly not helping.
Okay.
I've surprisingly become a foodie. I've never thought of myself as one, but
He's a
love
very
different
selective foodie.
I love spicy food, and the spiciest food I've ever had in my life. and one of the best ever is Sichuan hot pot. The flavor is incredible, and what you don't see here and how hot pot works in China and many other places is you take this giant plate and you go choose the foods you want to put into this boiling water or boiling soup. So you get to choose what you want, and then it picks up the flavor of the soup, and you
can see how little bit I added. That's the spicy stuff on the outside. And I will say we did this the night before.
My mouth is watering.
We did this the night before, and it was so hot that I couldn't eat dinner after my first bite. My mouth was burning so much that we had to go to the hotel, get an ice cream, and I ate a protein bar for dinner. So we came back, and you can see the middle part. That's where I ate my food out of.
Right. So the outer part is full of chilies, and the inner part is not spicy.
So I
they
added
give you a choice.
Teeny tiny of the spice, but pretty much ate out of the middle.
I miss that so much. And an honorable mention, not an honorable mention, but I'm also addicted to Al Pastor street tacos.
You can't do that. He also had like 5 different, many more than 5.
Great foods around the world.
I asked him for his favorites, and he came back with these huge lists of
She
everything.
didn't specify one.
I said, your favorite, singular.
Oh,
okay.
There was an S on that.
So mine was any street food, which if he was smart, he would do this. Any Mexican street food is mine. Now, we have become vegans since we took this video. So we are eating a little bit differently and much more for health. But we just had a discussion after making this video that one day a week we are going to partake in local foods, because one of our favorite things about traveling is their locals' tastes.
Yes.
So we need to make sure that we can accommodate it. I will say that Mexican street food is not vegan friendly.
But it's worth sacrificing your health for, absolutely.
No.
This really hit me when my first time in China. I'm walking down the street. I was a vegetarian, and we're passing this little street corner shop. I mean, little, and it had all these roasted ducks, hanging by their necks.
That's something.
The guy I was with, also American, he's like, "Oh, we got to try this." I'm like, "Oh no, I'm a vegetarian." Like, what am I talking about? Yes, I am a vegetarian, but I can't pass up this experience. So anyway, we're back onto that now. We are vegan, but mostly vegan.
Once
every week or 2 weeks, we'll do something.
And we're not going to do it so we go out on one day a week and just eat with costless.
No, it's not binging, but we will break our vegan status.
But our point is we want to make sure and experience the local foods, because that is a big part of traveling.
Yeah.
So there you go. Okay.
Sam's got a quick question here. Which country have you found is best for nightlife?
We are not nightlife people.
What do you mean? As long as we're home by 9, we are out partying.
So if us sleeping is in the indication, Puerto Vallarta is really good for nightlife.
Really, any big city has great nightlife.
It's true.
Chinese cities, though, are a little subdued. So in terms of how the nightlife is, but if you like going to like pubs and staying out late and having like endless great beers, you can do that in China. But as far as like, going out dancing in clubs and that kind of stuff, every big city's got that. So
it really depends what you're looking for, because in big cities, you can find rooftop bars with great atmospheres, good DJs usually, and that's really great. Like in a beach town like this, non-pandemic version, you'll find bands and stuff on the Malecon.
Right.
So you can go down there, and there's a lot of food vendors and stuff, so you can hang out there. Any big city will have a good nightlife. Any tourist town will have good nightlife, because it's tourism driven.
So, when you say nightlife, Sam, I'm thinking of like, clubs and dancing or whatever. But China has great nightlife because in terms of like, there's dancing on the streets, and it's not people drinking or, couples, meeting up or something. It's
It's community based.
It's community based. It's, it's families out there. It's people doing waltzes. It's
lovely.
It's different,
and
but
people
it is
can join.
great. Anyone can join in.
Anyone joins in. So pretty much anywhere you go will have a nightlife scene. You need to seek it out sometimes, but if you're in any big city or a tourism spot, the nightlife will find you.
Yeah.
Even if it's through the windows and walls of your apartment. So our favorite airport, we actually agree. There's no second choice actually for us. And it was the Changi Airport in Singapore.
And the Changi Airport in Singapore is consistently, since its opening, been rated the #1 airport in the world. And the reason that it's absolutely #1 for us is because we haven't been through the 2 through 25 yet in our travels.
Well, we don't know. We haven't even looked them up.
Well, I have, and we haven't been to any of them.
I haven't.
So this is, for us, absolutely the best airport ever. And it's great because...
Well, before we begin there, we actually scheduled a full day. We actually scheduled our flight out to coincide that we could spend a full day in this airport for this specific reason. We went on search of the 6 or 7, I can't remember now, gardens of the airport. And I was never without awe as I was walking through. So we're in the Jewel in this video clip. We're in the Jewel, which is outside of the airport, and anybody can enter. You don't need a boarding pass or anything. And it's a full-on mall. The food court takes up so much room. It has every food from anywhere.
It's quality too.
And good food. Yeah. It's so good. Then when you go behind the gate,
security, once you pass security,
then you can get to all the gardens. And this outside space in this airport is just
that's
phenomenal.
What makes it. There's 6 gardens, and I think 4 or 5 of them are outside. Mm-hmm. So you can be in the airport and you can be outside in different areas. And there's even an outdoor pool. So, I mean, you can go for a swim.
Not that I would ever swim at an airport, because then I don't understand.
Well, I'm not going to assume there were showers and changing areas. I don't know.
To be fair, I don't understand.
Walk on the airplane in your swimsuit.
It was
tripping.
Fun to go see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So by far the best airport ever.
Airline.
So we agree on this as well.
Qatar Airlines.
Yeah.
So we flew this from where?
From Cambodia to KL, Kuala Lumpur.
So when we went to, and it was amazing for so many reasons. Now it's a short flight. I wish it was longer. And I will say there was no alcohol on this flight, which is a little disappointing. However, they made up for it. And it's because they really seemed to care. It wasn't service because they were told to do these things in a book. They were really out to be of service to you. We did fly first class. I'm not sure how we got upgraded, but we did.
It was a random upgrade, which was great.
Which I always love.
We have a video on this, by the way. And in the video I tell Kim, I said, I love this airline because of the flight attendants. And we had just boarded, and it's like, we run into 2 flight attendants on the way in. I don't even know if they were on the airplane, and they were so genuinely happy to see us.
Yeah.
Kim and I were both flight attendants, and I remember, when you had a first class passenger, you got a list of their names, and it was like, "Welcome aboard, Mr. Smith." I mean, it was so artificial.
I was much more natural.
Yeah, well, but I mean, these flight attendants seemed genuinely happy to be doing their job, and that's what made it.
And there were other perks for being in first class. We had our own immigration line and all of this stuff. I'm like, I love this airline. And we actually tried, when we were trying to get Brennan out of India, our son, which is, he's still in India. When we were trying to get him out, we had him on a Qatar airline flight, but it canceled. He's still there. Flight. We're still trying to get him out. He does not want to take a repatriation flight, just so you know. We've gone through the normal channels. He's in a safe place. He's very safe. No cases where he's at. So we're happy that he's there. But yeah, Qatar Airline, our favorite.
Yeah. And I'll add
Oh.
to that, any international airline that I've flown out of, or a Chinese airline, so like East China Air and Southern China Air. And it's not that there's anything special about the airline itself, but the flight attendants, again, they seem really happy to have that job.
It's a degree for them.
Right. They go to, well, when I taught at Bangkok University, that was one of the degrees that many of my students were working on, was flight attendant degree or whatever it was called. I don't know.
I will say that
it's a college degree.
So while they're great, their planes are not always great, because in some of my flights, like I have the USB port on my seat that doesn't work. And so it's a hit or miss, of course. I wouldn't choose them as my favorite, but
it's like a restaurant with bad ambiance, but great food and service. I'm making that up.
Okay, so that's it, unless we have more questions in the chat.
Right. So Nikki earlier asked about
we'll go back to the cheers.
Talk about language challenges. Shameless plug opportunity. Thank you. So if you're following us, said, oh, you know that I love languages and I love to learn languages and try and speak with everybody. And so when we got
it's a little annoying to be his wife, to be honest, because he's so good at it, and it makes me feel
I'm not good at it. There's just a system for it.
You are too.
So I think learning for anything in life, but particularly for language, if you want to get to a fluency level, it's a little bit of time over a long period of time. So it's 3 or 4 15-minute blocks every day for the next year, and you'll have the language down.
And it's also focusing on the right thing. I think the one thing that Wei has identified that I really appreciate is he identifies what you need to know to begin with, what you need to know for the next step. Right. And then if you get through that, then you can work on improving grammar, fluency, and all of those things.
Right. So the system I have is it's key phrases that you will use every day, repeatedly through the day, and then you can throw in the specific word you need to.
Right. So he has 2 products that are out. Speak in a Week, which is really like, I'm leaving for Mexico next week. So it's the key phrases. And we give you, we, as in me and him, but really him, will give you suggestions on what you want to fill in that blank with. Think of it like Mad Libs for language, right? So I want, and 9 things you might want while you're there.
Right.
Then the next step is the Get Conversational program, which is a little bit more advanced. It's the next step. It's a
right. So if you know you're going somewhere in 2 or 3 months, this is something, and you want to have a better, stronger language ability, then you would use that one.
The one thing both have in common, though, is it is really about communicating and not about communicating correctly. So communicating to be understood versus correct grammar. And that is really key, because I think the thing that trips people up, and me, because I took formal language, is the grammar bit of it, right? We are so busy trying to figure out how do we conjugate the verb. But if you leave that bit out and you just say, want food, people are going to understand you. Right. And so that's a lot of his language expertise. That's what he's found has worked for him when he's traveled, and I've stood by his side, letting him do all the speaking.
Language learning is different than almost every other type of learning that we do. And it's an interesting cognitive phenomenon, if you're into that. In that usually when you learn something, you need to learn it right the first time so that you don't make mistakes later. But with language, we learn language as a child as your first language, or as an adult as your second, third, whatever language, by making mistakes. You learn by making mistakes. It's the only way, it's the only thing that we learn, by making mistakes versus by having to be perfect. And so that's the mistake most people make, is they want to say it correctly. That's not how you learn it. You learn it by making mistakes and then getting correct.
I will also say in Mexico, we are the perfect pair, because I can understand and he can speak. So I tell him what they said and he responds. We're great. So anyway, the reason why we're here today is we're doing a practice for our tours from home, which are taking some of our previous or in the case of our next Tours from Home current experiences, bringing some of our footage and going beyond the vlog. We're doing them live like this, maybe with or without drinks. We'll look it back and see if drinks were a good idea. And they're free, so you can join any of the ones, whether all of them or Tours from Home. This is how we are combating our antsiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need to get out there and we can't, so.
And then here are a few. We have Puerto Vallarta coming up on Tuesday. On September 12th, we're going through the ruins of Antigua, which, oh my God, my favorite. I would live in Antigua, to be honest. And then, of course, another ruin, the ancient Mayan city of Tikal, which Wei loves.
One of my favorite places in the world.
For sure. So those are our next three. You can head over to kimandwei.com/tours to sign up for those or all of them or whatever you want to do. And there we are.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
That's all I see. Is your last chance to ask?
Been on here for 90 minutes.
All right. Well, it was probably time to wrap up for everybody.
Done with us.
Thanks everybody for joining us and supporting us. It's really greatly appreciated. Love the questions.
Yeah, for sure. This has been fun. Our first live. I'm not sure whether adding champagne to it was a good thing or not, but I am empty, so I am going to go get maybe a nap. Take care. Bye-bye.